The greatest legacy one can pass on to one's children and grandchildren is not money or material things accumulated in one's life, but rather a legacy of character and faith. Welcome back to the Wells of Wealth podcast. It's good to be back, baby.
I'm excited to be back.
You looking gorgeous today.
Thank you. I'm trying to, cool off from all this hot Houston heat.
It is ridiculous out there.
It's been insane.
Yeah.
But it's Houston. So
it's Houston.
Yeah.
We making do.
We making do.
So how you been?
Good, man. Good. I'm excited about the topic we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
I think that it's something that the culture needs to hear.
Absolutely.
It's something that's near and dear to my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just ready to get to it. I'm excited to hop
let's
into
do
it.
Let's do it.
it.
So we'll start with the words of wealth. The greatest legacy one can pass on to one's children and grandchildren is not money or material things accumulated in one's life, but rather a legacy of character and faith.
That's good.
That's good.
That's good. And we talk a lot about legacy. And typically when you hear legacy, it is in the aspect of money and being
what you
able
inherit.
to, generational wealth and different things like that. But to be able to inherit character, to be able to inherit, especially with us having 3 boys, to be able to pass down to them manhood and what that looks like and how to represent that in their families as they go forth and build, whatever family dynamic they end up, building. I think it's super important that those things don't get lost in society.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is a key part of building generational wealth, is installing the characteristics and the character that you want your children to inherit, because it's been documented that there are a lot of wealthy families that if you look 2 or 3 generations down the road, it's gone.
Yeah.
And so if you're not passing down, you can pass down the money, but you also have to pass down the mindset and the character and the beliefs that you use to build the holistic wealth that you got. Because if you don't, they're going to squander it.
Absolutely.
You look a couple generations down the road, it's going to be gone.
It's going to be gone because they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think I'm excited because we are talking about raising young men and empowering them in today's society. Mm-hmm. Like, what does manhood look like in today's society? And so just to get us going, how would you define masculinity today that versus how you would define it in previous generations?
I think in our our parents' generation, masculinity looked like being a provider, being strong, being tough. In my father's generation, I never really saw that generation show a lot of emotion. Mm-hmm. And so inherently, as a man, that's what I saw, and that's typically how most men will look at manhood through those eyes of what our fathers portrayed to us.
Right.
And so for me, for a long time, that's how I looked at it. Just being strong. You better not cry.
Yeah.
Just being a good person of character, but also being very tough and and just some of a harder shell, I would say.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, there's place for both. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I'm
for sure.
not walking around crying all the time.
Right. You're just not in your feelings 24/7.
Yeah. But on the flip side, I think our generation started to realize like emotional intelligence and being in tune with how we feel and understanding that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to articulate how we feel and live our truth. And so I think that we are evolving. Our generation has evolved manhood to look a little bit different than the previous generation.
Absolutely.
And I think it's a healthy version of what it should look like.
Yeah, I agree. I think from what I can remember with growing up, so I grew up in a single parent household. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't grow up really seeing the whole mother-father dynamic play out. But for me, a lot of what I gathered from what manhood looked like was more so from like media.
Okay.
It was more so from TV shows and music and different things like that. And so I would get bits and pieces, right? So there were some, especially in the 90s, you got a lot of those family shows that pushed
Family Matters.
Family Matters, Fresh Prince,
yeah,
where you're growing up with these TV dads and you're seeing how they handle different situations and you're seeing the toughness in them, but you're also kind of seeing the softer side of them and seeing them embrace emotion a little bit more. But traditionally they played a certain role.
Yeah.
And so that was my biggest indicator of what manhood looked like growing up and what to expect when I had my own family and with being with a man of what they should be doing.
Yeah.
But like you said, with our generation, as we got into our marriage, and as we started to realize like, hey, everything we've been taught that's not necessarily how things should go or how things should look. And so I'm excited for the amount of growth that I've seen from the previous generation to our generation. Mm-hmm. Now the next generation is I don't know. I don't know what their version of manhood is going to look like, but we are helping to shape our son's version of understanding what we came up with, also the tone that we're setting for them.
Yeah. And so I think it's important for any generation, and especially if you're in the body of believers, to understand that God didn't make a mistake when he made you. He made you in the image of what he wanted to create. Mm-hmm. And so with our boys, I let them know you don't need to add nothing to that and you don't need to take it away. Take anything away. Like God made you how he intended you to be.
Exactly.
And so you have to be comfortable in that and love yourself how he created you.
Yeah.
Flaws and all.
Yeah.
And from a character standpoint, I think what we embed in them is to focus on, number one, understanding who God is and then falling in love with him, and understand as you live out life, you should be striving to be an image of Jesus and how God showed up in his humanity.
Yeah.
Because God came down out of eternity. He came into time in flesh, in Jesus Christ, to show us how manhood and masculinity and character should look in a human being.
Absolutely.
And so for men especially, we have a prime example given from God on how he wants us to look and show up in the world.
Right.
And we saw Jesus cry when Lazarus passed. We saw him as a nurturer, a teacher, a mentor to the disciples. We saw him play out himself. We saw him in humanity, God in humanity, illustrate how a man should look.
Yeah.
And so if you understand that and you live by those principles, I think that you can have a very successful life and build the type of wealth that we're trying to encourage, pass down to our kids, and make sure they have a mindset to be able to manage it.
And I would say it's so important. What you just said is so important, because the things that you listed out that Jesus taught us about manhood in society standpoint, like from a societal standpoint, Jesus would be considered weak, or like you crying because your homeboy died, like man up, you know what I'm saying? Or you're nurturing these grown men and comfort, like, but that's what manhood ultimately is, right? And so that's why it's so important to have the right role model.
Yep.
The ultimate role model.
The ultimate role model
in your life, because society wants you to think that it looks like something else.
Yeah.
And even in our marriage, like when we first got married, there was a lot of reshaping mentalities. The whole, you never right out said like, oh, that's women's work. But that was kind of the mentality of like, I'm going to go to work.
Facts. My expectation was what I saw.
Right.
So, and it took us time to reshape that, because my dad went to work. My mom did a lot of stuff with us and hold down the household for the most part. So when we got married, I didn't say that, but in my mind,
that was the expectation.
Yeah. And I didn't even realize it needed to be said. I just thought that was just the role that people knew to play. And then I realized, okay, there is no, especially in our day and time, there is no stereotypical role, because life was set up a lot different in the past.
Correct. And it continues to evolve.
Yeah. So you can't walk into a marriage or a relationship assuming that it was going to operate the same way it did 30, 40 years ago. It's just unrealistic.
It is.
Because our life is changing so drastically, especially now, and fast, that it will require different things from both people to create a functioning household.
Yes.
And both people have to be willing to work together. There's not necessarily a specific role. I mean, you cook more because you're a better cook.
I am.
And you're doing a great job teaching our kids how to cook. So when they become fathers, and when they are, parents of their household, they can add that and bring that to the table. Yeah,
because I realized with being married to you, a lot of it was not that you weren't willing to do the work. It was that you weren't confident in doing it because you didn't have to do it. You didn't necessarily have to do it. So that's why with the boys, I'm very intentional about, hey, no, you've never made breakfast before, but we're going to go in here and we're going to do it, and we're going to practice it, and we're going to practice it again until I can step out of the kitchen and you can go in and create your own meal and create your own substance. Because at the end of the day, one, I don't want them relying on a woman to prepare anything for them. If you're hungry, you need to know how to go in the kitchen and cook.
Facts.
Period.
Yeah.
And not only that, but I want your sons and your daughters, when they get to that stage, I want their kids to see them in the kitchen cooking and interacting with them on that level, and household being a shared common space where both parties are helping each other out. Because there's times that I hit you and I'm like, hey babe, I have a long day. I need you to be able to cook dinner or provide dinner or whatever the case, and you got me. Yeah. But imagine a world where I call you and you're like, I don't know.
I know what to tell you.
Yeah. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And so it's unhealthy. And our generation is doing such a better job of defining what that looks like. Redefining what that looks like. And you're seeing men stay at home with their kids more. If you can do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
You're half of that child's parent, just, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's half of you.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you stay home and help out if the situations change.
Calls for it. Yeah.
And so I think, and men also have to learn how to be nurturers, because although it's not maybe the most natural progression, like men feel like they have to be nurturers.
Yeah.
In every aspect of your life, you have to nurture.
Yeah.
You have to nurture your wife. You have to nurture your kids. You have to nurture your business. You have to, like, it is something that is important to know how to do.
Yeah.
And it's, for us, I've seen your growth in nurturing. I've seen you embrace it a lot more.
Yeah.
I've seen you be super affectionate with our kids. So much so sometimes I could tell it makes them a little uncomfortable, because they're like, okay,
right.
Dad, okay.
Chill out.
But you don't you don't ease up on it, because you want them to know that it's okay for a father to show love to their son.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. And I was purposeful in trying to repurpose or change that narrative with our kids. Because although my dad was phenomenal, that just wasn't their generation. Like, I didn't see a lot of men doing that.
Yeah.
Showing affection to their kids, especially their sons. And I do it in a way like, I'm gonna make you be a man too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I want you to understand that it's okay to be nurturing. It's okay to be loving. It's okay to be understand and tap into your emotion. I want you to do that. But I also want you to understand that the same God that was nurturing and loving was the same God that sent soldiers over there to kill thousands. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's the same God. So I want you also to understand, you called to protect your household. You are called to make sure that you are a provider, and not always a provider in the sense of money, because I think we kind of get it misconstrued that, okay, I'm a provider, I have to make sure I'm the breadwinner.
Yeah.
No, that's not necessarily what God called you to be. He called you to be a steward over your household. So if you making more money than me, I ain't got no problem with it. I'm like, hey, baby, go make some more. But I am going to lead my household. I am going to steward what God has given us. I am going to be the leader that has the vision that pushes us forward. And we're going to do it together.
Absolutely.
We're going to cast vision together and make sure that we are both on the same page and going in the same direction that we feel like God's calling us. But, it's important that men show all essence of manhood. You know what I'm saying? And that we show a healthy balance and a healthy version of that.
Yeah, for sure. And going back into just like how media plays a part now, it's cool to see different characters or different TV shows where they show manhood look different. Where, especially for black men, more especially, like, before it was a lot of the, like, oh, I'm the tough guy, Now you see the nerdy black guy. Now you see the little bit more sensitive black guy. You see the funny black guy. Like, you see black men in
like
all
Randall and This Is It.
Yes.
He was that was a great character.
I loved Randall's character because he was so real. Like, he was the epitome of what a lot of black men in America look like today, but has never had that representation on TV where they could see someone that looks like them and be like, oh, okay, it is cool. Like I identify with him. I get him. He loves knowledge and learning, and he's able to articulate, and he cares about politics, and he has empathy for others and all of these things. And I could see some of those characteristics of our son in Randall. Yeah. Where I'm like, okay, finally, like, we're getting somewhere. Where you're starting to see a representation of manhood look completely different than it did with us growing up. You have a variety, and you can see it in so many different ways. And I think that's super important. Yeah. And I think it's important, on the flip side of that, it's also important that you
make sure that you, because it's on both sides, right? There's healthy versions of it, and there's versions that don't necessarily align with the version that mirrors Christ, that
Right.
mirrors what he teaches. So it's also important that you install in them, if you're a believer, that you install in them, that you show them the correct images and make sure that they understand what version they need to be looking at and what version they want to stay away from.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
And so how do you use faith to guide our young boys? Dion's a young man.
Mm-hmm.
How do you use faith to guide them towards a healthy amount of emotional guidance, of like health, respect? Like I see it a lot today where still in our three boys, they're all very different, right? Mm-hmm. Dion is he's the super responsible one, very dependable.
Absolutely.
Sarcastic, funny, whatever. Then I see in Donovan has that super warm, sweet side of him. He's very sensitive, very loving. He has a little, he can toughen up too when he needs to, but that's more of his character. And then Daniel, as of right now, is just a lot more just kind of, he's tough. Like, doesn't show a lot of emotion and all of that. So how do you use your faith to guide them and teach them on what God is calling them to do and how to maneuver and navigate through those emotions?
I think mostly at this age, especially with Donovan and Daniel, because they're pretty young, really with all of them, it's more of what I show them than what I tell them. It's a combination of both. But like for Daniel, he is a harder shell. So I intentionally make him uncomfortable. I intentionally go over there and give him a hug and a kiss on the cheek and tell him I love him, because Donnie embraces that.
Right.
But he's more of a hard shell. But I need you to learn to understand that this is okay. You know what I'm saying? That when you have a child, you need to be able to play both roles.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Dion, he's older now, so there was a stage I did that with him, and I still do it to some degree, but I ain't, he in preteens, he like, bro, don't be rolling up on me like that, yeah. And so it's a different balance, it's a different level as he get older. I'ma respect his boundaries a little bit more, but if I wake up in the morning, I want to kiss you on the forehead and tell you good morning, I'm going to do it. You know what I'm saying? Because I want you to understand that although it evolves, as you get older, I'm not going to be doing the same thing, but I'm always going to be your father. I'm always going to have a love and affection that I'm going to show to you.
Absolutely.
Regardless, I don't care if you 70 years old and I'm 100. It's still going to be the same thing because that's the role that God told me to play in your life, and that's the role I'm going to play. And then, so I think one is illustrated. And that's the importance of having a father in the household, having a father that's super involved, that's there, so you can create those moments. Yeah. And then number two, I would say, just constantly teaching them. We'll read the Bible before bed. Yeah. We take them to church. So the more they learn about God, the more and about Jesus and how he lived, the more they understand who he is, how he looked, how he showed up in the world. Mm-hmm. And then folks try to mirror that. Try to mirror the characteristics of what he showed and displayed to you. And you're able to identify what's of him and what is not. You know what I'm saying? So, we look at a Randall. You know what I'm saying? On This Is It. I think that's a good example. This is us. Yeah. I'm even saying the wrong. This is it. This is us. Yeah. And he's a good example of that because you see him in a lot of different elements. You do. And you can tell, okay, this is somebody that I may want to model after because it looks like Christ. It looks like vulnerable. It looks loving. It looks caring. It looks intelligent. It looks like him. And so you can but you can also identify what doesn't.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
that's important.
That's good. And I wanted to ask you, so you were talking about the importance of having a father in the household, right? But for those boys that are growing up without, that don't have that father figure in their household daily showing them what manhood looks like, that don't have maybe a close uncle or something like that where they can look to find it, what would be your advice to that parent, that mother that may be raising a child without that guidance, without that father
I would
figure?
say if they don't have anybody, their father's not there, I would say go to your local church and get involved. And I can almost guarantee you that there's some brothers that will be willing to mentor your son and they'll be around people that can show them how manhood looks. It may not be at home every day, but they'll be around brothers that ideally a moral character, brothers that are striving to live like Christ.
Right.
And as you go to church, you can use your discernment to find somebody that may be a great mentor to your child,
Yeah.
and so that they can start pouring into them.
Right.
And I'm part of an organization, Emerging 100, and that's what we do. We go into schools, we mentor young African Americans, mostly boys of color. You know what I'm saying? And we go in and try to be that example for a lot of kids that don't have it.
Yeah.
And it's important. It's important for them to be able to see it.
Yeah, it is.
It's hard
It is.
It's hard to be something that you've never seen.
Correct.
And so it's important that in some capacity that they're able to witness what the version of manhood that you want them to adapt. So they can learn how to imitate that, and they can learn what it looks like and what to strive for.
That's good.
Yeah.
Hey, Wells of Wealth community. Are you working right now?
I'm just trying to get to the bag, baby, selling these houses.
Really? If you're looking to buy or sell a house here in the Houston area, please contact the Wells team. But not during the podcast. Maybe we can put that away until it's done.
I got you.
Okay. All right, cool.
Back to the podcast. So let me ask you a question.
Sure.
As a mother, what role do you think you should play in teaching our kids about manhood?
I love that question. That's a great question. I like it. I think that there's a lot that a mother can offer her son. There's so many things that as a mother we see in our sons, and the relationship typically that a mother and son have, especially in the beginning, it's super close. The whole mama's boy thing and all that.
Yeah.
And so I'm very intentional about teaching our sons about emotional intelligence, because from an early age, when they're toddlers, they don't know how to process emotion.
Yeah.
Right? So that's when you get tantrums and all that kind of stuff. But as they start to get older and you can start to have more intelligent conversations with them, it's about understanding why you feel the way you feel. And so I'm big on making our kids talk.
Yeah.
When I ask you how your day is, I don't want to hear good. No, we're going to get into the details of your day.
Yeah.
Because at some point in your day, you had conflict. At some point in your day, you felt joy. At some point in your day, you felt frustration. And so let's talk about it. Let's really get into who you are, why you feel the way you feel. Maybe you're having issues with friends.
Yeah.
And he said, I wasn't good at basketball. Well, why does that upset you? If you know that you're good, why does that upset you? And so for me, it's about teaching them how to know what they're feeling. So as they get older, they have that ability to reflect on their emotions.
Yeah.
That emotional intelligence that you spoke about earlier. And not only that, I think that I'm really big on teaching our boys I think you do a great job of showing them what a man's role in a marriage is. And I try to talk to them about how to present that. Mm-hmm. And so I let them model it on me first. For example, when I get out the car or we went to the grocery store, y'all are old enough now. Put the groceries in. I'm going to go sit down because I did all this shopping. Y'all start treating me the way that I deserve to be treated.
Yeah.
And in turn, that's going to turn into you treating your wife the way that she deserves to be treated.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just stepping up and doing certain things to make her feel valued. So with Dion, we're going out. It's just me and him. I'm going to stand here and wait. You're going to open my door.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's teaching him early so it just becomes ingrained in him.
Yeah.
And so those are things that you can show him. He can see you do, but it's another thing to be able to put it in action and start making those things more robotic where it's just a part of your nature to be a gentleman.
Yeah.
And I know this makes my mom happy. I know this makes her feel good. So I know when I get into a relationship, I should also do this for the important woman that's in my life. And so I think it's about modeling that, and giving them that life practice to start figuring out, like, why should I do this? Why do I need to do this? And I like, the conversations are just great. Honestly, the conversations, like, our son has one of our sons, I'm not going to say which one because he would kill me if he found this out, but one of our sons has a crush on someone. And so it's just been that conversation of talking through what that looks like.
Role playing.
Yeah, we're role playing. I'm acting like the little girl, whatever, and he wants to be friends with her and, just kind of feel it out. And I'm just like, okay, well, here's how you deal with this situation in a respectful way.
Yeah.
And if she rejects you and she says no, then this is how you also, keep your dignity, keep your head up. It's okay to feel your feelings, but let's feel it away from her.
Yeah. And I think that's dope because I can't always teach him how a woman wants to be treated. Like you have that life experience.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I've
so
dealt
you can
with a
come
lot of
from
clowns.
Yeah, so you can come from a different place. Than I would be able to come from. And like you said, the communication is key. Even I remember Dion I remember him saying one time, he was like, "Daddy, you don't never buy me nothing." And I'm like, bruh, your mama might be going to the store and actually purchasing the items, but we both riding to make the money.
Right.
And he didn't understand that conceptually. He just looked at it as, mommy's taking me to the store, you not buying it for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, like, them shoes you got on, who you think sold houses to get you into those? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And so, and no knock on him, he just didn't understand how the dynamic worked.
Yeah.
And so it is important that you teach your kids, especially your men, that, hey, like, bro, I am a provider. Like, I work, I make sure y'all have everything that you need. I may not be in the store shopping with you,
right,
but understand that I am doing what I need to do.
Absolutely.
So we can go to the store.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think they got that now.
Yeah, they got it. They got it. And one thing I thought was really dope that you did was when Dion went into middle school, and that's typically when females start their cycle in that around that age range, and for you to sit him down and say, okay, here's what's going on, may happen. Here's how if you see somebody, I'll let you tell the story, but I thought it was really dope how you explained that and set him down and talked to him, because nobody did that with me. So when women would go through, when I remember being in middle school and seeing that, and I'm like, what is that? Like, what's going on? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And not really understanding it, not know how to react to it.
Yeah.
So I thought it was dope that you could sit him down and understand, because that wouldn't even cross, that conversation wouldn't even cross my mind.
Right.
But you being a woman, you knowing that, okay, here's things that you may see going into the middle school. Here's how you handle it.
Yeah, because one, I know he doesn't have any sisters. He has one female cousin that he's close with that's close to his age. And so even with her, a situation like that could occur. So it was important to me in teaching him about, as he gets older, to also teach him what's going on with the women that or the girls that's going to be around you. So you know how to be respectful as a gentleman and handle such a delicate issue with care. So if you do see a girl that's had an accident and maybe she stands up to leave out of third period and you notice it, instead of giggling with your friends and being a jerk, just walk over there. If you got an extra sweatshirt or you got something, just tie it around her and be like, hey, you may want to go to the restroom. And then that's it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like to know what some girls have gone through, the embarrassment, and to know what that feels like as a teenage girl or preteen to go through something that's weird. Your body's changing. Everything's just kind of crazy. You don't really want this to happen, but you have no
control
over it.
Yeah.
You just got to deal with it. To teach boys how to respond to women is one of the biggest gifts I feel like I can give my sons.
That's good.
It's going to save them a lot of heartache. It's going to save them a lot of just trying to figure out women. And, you know, we're never going to truly understand the opposite sex because, I mean, we
it's
are
a different
very
life
different.
experience. Yeah.
But I can give you as much insight as possible. And I want to be able to be one of the people you turn to when you have questions to say, you know, hey, my mom's real cool about this. Let me ask her and get her opinion on this because we're at odds about something and I want her opinion. So that was huge to me. And I think that in those moments is where you get to show up for your sons and teaching them about manhood.
That's good.
Yep.
That's good.
Yes. So it is now time for us to go to our Wealth Avenue. Wealth Avenue is where we take you on our journey and give you tips and tricks on your road to success. And so do you want to start first?
Sure. I think that I would say this. I think it's important to understand who you are. And in teaching your kids about manhood, it's important that they understand it's okay to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's okay to tap into your emotions.
Yeah.
But you also need to play the role of a stereotypical man in the sense that you should desire to make sure that you're providing your household is provided for in some capacity.
Yeah.
You should make sure that you are the protector of your household. You have to have a balance of both. It's essential in manhood, and but I also want to be very intentional to let them know you have to respect how other people decide to show up in the world.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? Everybody doesn't have the same beliefs as you.
Yeah.
Everybody doesn't carry themselves the same way that you do.
Yeah.
It's important that you respect how they decide to show up in the world. On the flip side of that, it's important that people show you respect.
Yes.
On how you decide to show up in the world.
Amen to that. That's real talk.
And understand your beliefs and respect your beliefs. And just because your belief does not look like them or may not be in now mainstream society or culture doesn't mean that your belief is not just as valuable as what they believe.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's what I would
say. Yes. Well done. That's good. I think my final thoughts on the manhood conversation is, you know, to the boys that are growing into manhood, to the parents, to the mothers that are raising boys, it's equally your responsibility just as much as it is his responsibility to help them grow into their manhood. And in that, as mothers, as nurturers, a lot of times we want to just give them everything. We want to make sure that we protect them from all hurt and protect them from,
Facts.
all these different things
Facts.
because we love so hard, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't prepare them for the real world. That doesn't
Absolutely.
prepare them for what the journey they have ahead. So it's taking a step back at a certain point and giving them up to, like, at this age with Dion, I'm like, hey, that's you. That's your arena, because I've done all the nurturing that I can do from that perspective, but you have to teach him what the real world is going to look like, because you faced it as the man. I haven't. And so, ladies, it's okay to be able to offer up your sons to experience life, to be hurt, to have disappointments, to have fears, to have those things, and not always try to shield them from those things. And we have to give them space to make mistakes so that they can learn. And just make sure that you get them paired up with a respectful man that's in your life. If you're not married, you don't have a husband, make sure that they have someone, a coach, a mentor, a community leader, a spiritual leader, someone that they can look up to, so when they're going through those things, you don't feel like you have to take it all on as a mother, because we just don't know what manhood truly feels like. And so that would be my advice.
That's good.
That would be my advice.
That's good.
Thank you.
You killed that one.
All right, well, that is the conclusion of our show today. We just want to thank you guys for just coming on this journey with us, our wealth journey with us. We really appreciate you. Make sure that you're following us on all your favorite platform streaming apps. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to hit the like
and subscribe button.
And subscribe.
Press that button.
Press the subscribe button, please. Also, make sure you follow us at the Wells of Wealth podcast on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, everything.
You name it.
You name it, we got it. And again, until next time, we'll see you guys later. Bye.